Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is gonna be a somewhat of a different video from what I usually post. About 1 year and a half ago, I posted this video where I talked that I decided to take the United States Medical Licensing Exam, the USMLE Step 1. And I talked how I felt overwhelmed with the amount of information that there is in the first aid book, the #1 reference book for students that students go to in order to study for that exam. And 1 year and a half later, I passed. I took my exam on the 30th of January and I received my results 2 weeks later on the 14th of February, which is my birthday. And yeah, I passed. I passed USMLE Step 1. So I decided to make this video in order to give back to the community because I received so much help online, whether it's on online forums, on YouTube here, from content creators that helped me, and without that information I wouldn't been able, to be honest, to pass the USMLE Step 1 exam. So that's why I decided to make this video, to try to give back some of the information and some of my experience to maybe some of you guys who aspire to take the Step 1. So I wrote a few points here. So let's start with how long did it take me to actually study for Step 1. So the answer to that question, which also is the #1 mistake that I think I made in the preparation for this exam, is I took too long and I didn't study consistently. I started studying for Step 1 and I bought the first aid book on September of 2022. And I studied for like 3 months, and then I took a long 4-month break and then went back to studying, and then 2-month break, and then so if you will count it in total, I studied for like 8 months for this exam in total. But I took a lot of breaks, and I think those breaks, those little breaks, added to the time that I required to study for the exam, because each time that I took a long break, I told you that I one time took a 4-month break, I forgot some of the information that I studied. Oh, I also wanted to say that maybe it took me a little bit too long to study for the exam because I study in Russia and we study in Russian. I only study in the Russian language. That's how I studied medicine from the first year of medical school. I also started studying medicine in French because whenever I go back to my home country, Tunisia, in the summer, and I do my clinical rotations in the summer, doctors and medical students discuss and practice medicine there in French. So I had to teach myself how to navigate those medical terms in French. And I did that by studying the medical curriculum of the Tunisian medical universities in French, which is in French. The books there are in French. So my only experience with medicine was in Russian and then in French, and I had zero experience studying or talking medicine in English. So this was all new to me when I first started studying for USMLE. So maybe that's why it took me a little bit too long to study for Step 1, but if you maybe have a little bit of a higher baseline knowledge of medicine and English, if you in your medical university as an IMG, I know some universities, whether in Russia, in India, or in Romania and other countries, study medicine in English, maybe you'll find it a little bit easier. But it took me maybe that long. It took me maybe 8 or even 9 months to study for Step 1 because I didn't know medicine in English at all. Next point is, which is one of the most frequently asked questions, is the resources. So which resources did I use to study for Step 1? #1 resource is, we already talked about it, is first aid and boards and beyond videos. I again had no idea about the curriculum of medical schools in America and how things go there, about the system, about the medical terms. So I had no idea, and I started studying fresh out of zero knowledge of medicine in English. First aid from biochemistry to the last system, which is pulmo. And a lot of concepts were new to me, and without boards and beyond videos I would have not been able to understand it. So I used to study and read first aid and watch board and beyond's videos along the way, and that helped me to understand the concepts on first aid. And the second resource is, of course, UWord. Once I started studying all the first aid book, once I finished getting to know the concepts that were new to me at the time, I started solving your questions. And just a little tangent here, it took me 1 year, and this is to know how time I've wasted. It took me 1 year to finish all the first aid book. It shouldn't take you that long, but it took me that long. So I only started solving UWord questions on, I think, on October of 2023, and I took my exam on the 30th of January 2024. So yeah, that's a little tangent. My average score on UWord was 56, although in the final 1/4 of the Q bank, I was solving blocks with 60, 70, and maybe sometimes 80% on each block. I solved blocks on a random multi-system parameter, and I thought that's the best way that suits me. Next resource is Pathoma videos and book. I didn't watch all the Pathoma videos. A lot of people recommended that, but I didn't really have the time to do it. I only studied and watched the videos for the first three chapters. So yeah, that's how I did it. Next resource, which I think is the most underrated and one of the most resources that helped me a lot, which is Malma Medical videos and PDFs. I didn't go through all the PDFs of Malma Medical. I only went through high yield PDFs and the neuroanatomy PDFs, and a lot of high yield stuff over there. So I really recommend checking out especially the neuroanatomy PDFs of Malma Medical. It's completely free on his website, and the videos as well as the date of my real deal of the exam kept approaching. I kept watching more and more Malma Medical videos in the bathroom, while I'm cooking, in the gym, and yeah, Malma Medical was super useful. Also, the NBME self-assessment exams. I took the NBME 25, 26, 7, 8, 9, 30, and 31. I didn't take them in order. There was some problems there with finding some NBMEs and not others, so unfortunately I wasn't able to take them in order. But one important thing is that people say that you should take your NBMEs not in the last period of studying, but that's how I did it. I only took NBMEs when I finished taking and doing all the UWord QBank, and that's how when I started taking my NBMEs. So it was maybe 1 month, 1.5 months from my real deal date that I started taking NBMEs, and I remember 52 on my first NBME, but I took that one, which was NBME 25. I took it maybe 3 months before my real deal date. But the first NBME that I did 1 month before the date was, I think, 61. And then it kept only improving, 64, and then 69, 71, 74, 76. I remember getting a little setback on NBME 29. I got, I think, 73, while I got 74 on NBME 28. And then on NBME 30, it was 78. And NBME 31, I got 80. And then the free 120, I got 81%. One last point that I wanted to talk about the resources. I didn't use Sketchy or Anki, which I know a lot of you may treat me like the devil right now whenever I say that I didn't use Sketchy Micro or Pharma. People tend to get emotional about it, but I really didn't find it helpful. I tried watching a couple of videos, but it just didn't stick in my mind, so I didn't use them. Next point is the exam day. What was the exam day like? Give us a little image about how it all goes. So you go into the Prometric Center. I was not really nervous. A lot of people there who were about to take the step one also were nervous. I wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I have cold nerves, but I went into the prometric center. Everything was simple. They keep you waiting in this waiting area until they call you by name, and then you go into the center. It's super comfortable. The noise cancellation headphones are useless. I even took the noise cancellation that you put them in your ear. I bought them from the pharmacy. One friend recommended them to me, and they did nothing as well. But I wasn't really distracted. I was hyper focused on my exam. So that's the little image, and I really recommend that you go on YouTube and watch little videos about how prometric centers look from the inside, just to get familiar with them. Next point about the exam date is the exam day is one big mistake that I did. When I used to take my self-assessments, it was the MBMEs. They were a the duration of the MBMEs is 6 hours, as you may know, plus breaks. So I used to take a 5-minute break between each block. And the main problem that I did with that is that once I finish one block, I set the time at 5 minutes, and then I go back to the next block after 5 minutes. The problem with that is, in the real deal, you will not get full 5 minutes. And that's really crucial here. It's not some negligible fact. You'll not get 5 minutes because each time you finish a block in the prometric center, in the real deal, in the real exam, you will have to go out of the exam area, go out, go to your locker, maybe get a few sips of coffee, maybe a few sips of water, go to the bathroom, and then when you will go back, you will get search again. And if you will count all the time that you will actually have a break in, it will maybe be 3 minutes. Now, 2 minutes will seem like a negligible difference for some of you, but it's really crucial when you talk about an 8-hour exam. And yeah, so if I would have done it all again, I would have only took 3 minutes of break in the NBME self-assessments. Next point about the exam day that I wanted to talk about is make sure to schedule your sleep ahead, like maybe 2 weeks ahead, in order to get enough sleep the day before. I met two persons. One girl was from Georgia, the other was from Iraq, and both of them slept only 2 hours. The girl from Georgia, I think she was taking step 2 and she only slept like 1 or maybe 30 minutes, and she was super nervous. I wasn't super nervous because I slept 8 hours. And I would really attribute that to my gym schedule. I kept going to the gym, especially in the final days, and that kept my body physically tired, so that when time is up for sleep, I had no energy to think about anything. And just waking up at the same time each day for 2 weeks, like the day that you're gonna take your exam, so 6 or 7 a.m. and I kept doing that for 2 weeks. And when the exam day came, I didn't find no problem sleeping early and waking up at 6 a.m. the day of the exam. So make sure to schedule sleep. It's super important, and especially don't do the mistake that a lot of people do, which is taking sleeping pills, any kind of sleeping pills, whether it's melatonin, benzodiazepines, especially the benzos, because you may feel at the time of the exam tomorrow like a little bit of a hangover, which may affect your concentration and your overall performance in the exam. So you should do it the hard way, you should do it the natural way. Next point is, I wanted to tell the story that happened to me in the exam. At the 3rd or 4th block, first of all, the exam was super hard. I genuinely thought that I'm gonna fail from the 2nd block. I thought that I've studied nothing. And keep in mind that I got 81% in free 120. So I went in there with super confidence, with my chest up high, thinking that I'm gonna solve any question. But then I was bombarded by bomb after bomb, hard question, vast, really obscure answers, detailed questions, and it was super hard. So by the 3rd block, I was I mean, I was about on the verge of quitting. I just wanted for everything to just disappear, and I wanted to quit. And I remember going out from the third block to get in my 5 minute break, and I was wearing this hoodie, and it was super hot in the exam area. So I took off my hoodie. I left a t-shirt, and I took 2 sips of coffee, 2 sips of water, some banana, went to the bathroom quickly, and went back to the exam area. And when going back to the exam area, I saw my hoodie on the waiting area on the chair. And I thought, oh, maybe I should put it in the locker. And then I saw my watch, and it was super late. So I thought maybe I should go for the fourth block. And after the fourth block, I'll put it in my locker. I'll leave it there on the chair. And I went on the fourth block. It was relatively easier than third. And then on the break of the fourth block, I went and I didn't find my hoodie. And I went to the worker there. I said, "See my hoodie?" And she said, "No. You sure you took it here? Maybe somebody took it." She said, "We have cameras and everything." I said, "No problem. I have no problem. My main focus right now is the exam. I don't give a shit about the hoodie really." And she insisted, "No, you should look into your locker, and if it's not there, we'll look in the cameras." And I said, "No, I mean, I left it here on the chair. It's not in my locker. I left it here on the chair. I'm positive. So no problem. I'll just take my little break." And she said, "No, please, just go check your." I said, "Okay, come with me. We'll check the locker." And I went there with the girl that was working in the center. We opened the locker with the key that I only had the key for that locker. And I opened the locker and I found my hoodie there with all my stuff. And I kept thinking, like, this has to mean one thing. I'm super nervous to the point that I have no concentration. My brain is foggy. So if I didn't even remember a simple fact like putting the hoodie in my locker, I should be doing bad in the exam. And I had that thought for like 2 minutes, and then I had the mental strength to push it away and went back to the next block with but yeah, it was a funny story. And to this day I have no recollection or no image in my brain of me putting that hoodie in the locker. Literally no image. So yeah, that's one story I wanted to tell you. Yeah, next point I wanted to talk about is the post-exam feelings and thoughts. I took the exam on the 30th of January. I had 2 weeks of waiting. The estimated results were on the 14th of February, which is again my birthday. And I genuinely thought that I failed the exam. And I remember having these feelings of anxiety, feelings of desperation, feelings of sadness. I wouldn't say depression, but that acute stress disorder compound that comes after the exam. And I remember watching videos of Mehmet Medical, which was again a great guy, a great mentor, not only in the medical aspect of the exam, but also the psychological and mental aspect. And he talked specifically about this fact, and he said that it's a certainty that you will feel like you failed the exam after you took it, so you should not worry about it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to change my position because the sun was too bright on my forehead, which is already big. So I don't know how that will look on the video. So yeah, post-exam feelings were filled with anxiety, sadness, and feelings of certainty that I failed the exam, which turned out to be false. So little hint for you, for people who already took the exam. Next point that I wanted to talk about is one golden tip. If I had learned one thing, I had of course learned a lot of things from this study period of the USMLE, this last 1 year. But if I had to summarize it in one thing, if I had to only choose one tip, and that is since I started studying medicine, I used to, when I was studying for my exams, for my finals, I used to get overwhelmed sometimes, as we always do. And once I felt that burnout, I know that there's nothing I can do really besides just taking a break, maybe 1 day, 2 day, or maybe sometimes 3 days break. And the main mistake that I used to did is that In the duration of those 3 days, I used to keep my mind thinking about how weak I am, how in those 3 days I should have been studying for the exam that I had, what a weak mentality I have. I used to get stressed about the studying, about how will I have to reschedule everything since I took this 3 day break. And I knew right away while starting to studying for step one that that approach will not be working. So I had to define a different approach. And the approach that I came up with is, when I took a break, when I took 1 day, 2 day, sometimes 3 days, or sometimes even a week break, I didn't give a shit. My mind was empty. I had no thoughts or even remotely an idea about the exam during my rest days. And that came in handy because I found myself regenerated. I found myself full of energy whenever I took rest days. In contrast to whenever I used to take rest days during my medical school, I used to come after those rest days feeling tired, as if I didn't even take any rest. So that was my number one tip, and the number one thing that I learned: when you take rest days, when you feel burnout that you have to take rest days, take them fully, take them to the fullest. Just take the rest days, enjoy your time, watch. In my case, I used to watch anime a lot, go out with friends, see the sun, touch grass, do anything. Physical activity helped a lot. So yeah, that's my number one golden tip right there. Other points that I wanted to talk about is, which is the last point, is why did I do it? I'm a medical student in Russia. I am originally from Tunisia. Once I finish medical school in Russia, which will be in 3 months, I will be going back to my home country. So why I did it? One word is challenge. I wanted to challenge myself. We have this weird, narcissistic, maybe selfish, bad idea, which is a myth, to be honest. But we have this idea in my country, Tunisia, that medical students in Russia are not as competent, are not as knowledgeable of medicine as medical students in Tunisia. And whenever I used to go to my home country in the summers to do my clinical rotations, I used to feel a lot of discrimination. And granted, some of that may be coming from inside, but I'm certain that a lot of that discrimination that I felt came from my colleagues, came from the fellow medical students that I was rotating with, from my professors. I felt like they saw me as inferior to them as a doctor. So that really intrigued something inside of me, and I wanted to do something to prove myself, not only to others that I'm gonna be the best version, the best doctor that I can, but also to myself when I look in the mirror to myself. So yeah, that was the number one reason why I decided to take this, to enter this USMLE journey. Plus, the idea of step one and then step two, and maybe the match, maybe working in the US, just gives me that spark that we all look for when we wake up in the morning. What will be coming next? I'll be starting to study for step two. I'll make sure to keep you guys updated. Maybe I'll make daily videos, weekly videos, who knows, about my step two prep. If you have any questions regarding my step one exam, please put it in the comments. I'll make sure to also put my Instagram in the description. You can DM me right there, ask any questions, and I'll try to give back to the community. Thank you so much, and bye-bye. Stay safe.